you very much. I will read the scriptures. The book of Esther, chapter 4. Esther chapter 4, verse 1. Esther chapter 4, we'll read from verse 1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes, and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and bitter cry, and came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting, and weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she went raiment to clothe Mordecai. She sent raiment to clothe Mordecai, and to take away his sackcloth from him, but he received it not. Then called Esther for Hatak, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was. So Hatak went forth to Mordecai unto the street of the city, which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman has promised to pay to king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. Also he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to shew it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king, to make supplication unto him, and to make requests before him for her people. And Hatak came and told Esther the words of Mordecai. Again Esther spake unto Hatak, and gave him commandment unto Mordecai, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces, to know that whosoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the inner court, who is not called, there is one law of his, to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter, that he may live. But I have not been called to come unto the kings these 30 days. And they told to Mordecai Esther's words. Then Mordecai commanded to answer Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Then Esther bade him to return to Mordecai this answer, go gather all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast yet for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day, or I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go in unto the king, which is now according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way, and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. Read until verse 17. The most difficult thing in our spiritual life, it may be keeping the law, coming to the early morning service, or giving offering. However, the most difficult thing is because the perception of God and human is completely different. When I first my car in Seoul, it was a pony. I bought my car and my lifestyle. There was great impact on my lifestyle. I used to wear these thick clothes. And after I bought my car, I didn't have to wear those coats, because I would drive the car, get out of the car, and a few steps away was my destination. And at that time, I was living in a Ma apartment, and I went to the Uijeongbu prison to have Bible study. And when I didn't have my car, I would go to the bus terminal. I have to go to the Uijeongbu terminal, and then I had to go to the prison from there, and it took about 2 or 3 hours. But I had my car, And it only took me an hour or so. And a lot of things changed in my life.
그래서 이제 우리가 승용차를 대부분 갖기를 원하고 또 갖고
So most of us want to buy cars and we want to buy good cars.
예수님이 내 안에 오셔서 내가 달라진 부분들을 이야기하라고 하면은
Well, if you ask me what changed in my life since Jesus came into my life, and that's a whole lot bigger than buying a car.
정확하게 우리 교회 성도들에게 이야기를 해야 하는데
Now I have to precisely deliver that fact to the brothers and sisters. If Jesus was visible, I would take him up to the podium and I will introduce you to Jesus, but he could not be seen with our eyes.
어느 정도 할 수 있지만
So I can tell you what happened.
정말 예수님 내 곁에 있는 거하고 없는 거하고 천지 차이고 눈에 보이는 거하고 천지 차이기 때문에
However, it's really different to see with your eyes and to feel it in your life.
일한다 그 사실을 믿는다는 건 쉽지가 않은 거예요.
So even though Jesus works in our lives, it is very difficult to believe that Jesus is with us.
그러나 제가 이제 신앙생활하면서
So as I live my spiritual life,
죄를 씻는 이 문제를 믿음 아닌 방법으로
the forgiveness of sin, if we try to solve our sins other than Jesus' blood,
믿으면 죄
then we can never wash away our sins.
그런 걸 생각
However, if we take it by faith,
예수님을 믿는
then it's gone that instantly.
알면
So if you believe Jesus, and if you precisely know how to believe Jesus,
삶이 현재 삶과 같이 살고
no matter who you are, your life will be completely different from now.
있는 거예요.
It'll be so much blessed and it'll be so much
저는 제가 참 행복한 것이
glorious.
목사는 복음을 전하는
I'm so thankful to be a pastor and to
사람들 마음에
preach the
정말
gospel,
어려운 문제 속에 빠져 있어 고통하는
because
그런
many
사이가
people, they're in pain and suffering because of the difficulties they meet.
그 속에
And I let them meet Jesus. I introduce Jesus to them and they get connected to Jesus. And that makes me so happy.
지난번에 제가 얘기했죠.
Last time I told you about this,
어떤 처녀 아가씨가
where this lady,
약을 먹었는데 시신경이 죽어서
she took some medication and the
시몬서에는
nerves on the eye has been damaged, so she couldn't see. So I went down to Hapcheon Church to meet Brother Shimong Seom, and she told me that we met and I prayed for her. And last year during the cantata, I met her and her parents.
시신경이 다 죽어서 눈을 못 뜨는데
Her eyes were damaged, so she could not see. She was blind.
편지를 보니까
But she wrote me a letter,
안 좋을 땐 양말을 이렇게 빨아가지고 딱 접어놓는데
and that her eyes were covered. So
다른 짝을 신고 다닌 거예요.
because it's not fully recovered yet.
자기 닦는 거 너무 무섭다고 하는 이야기예요.
And because when she was blind, she used to wear different pairs of socks, and now she could see.
굉장히 많은데
And such things
당면한 이 문제를
can be done by Jesus, can be solved by Jesus. However, when we meet difficulties, we doubt, oh, can Jesus solve this? Oh, I'm not a man of faith. Oh, this is not possible.
사함을 받고 믿음을 사는 사람.
This is how your hearts flow.
자동차 운전면허증 전혀 운전을 모르는 사람
Well, think about the driver's license. If you don't know how to drive,
훨씬 쉽거든.
and learning how to drive, it's much more difficult than learning about faith.
처음에 차 위에 딱 올라가지고 엑셀을 봐. 항상
When I was getting my driver's license,
이게 스타트가 자연스럽게 갔다가
it's
스무스하게
when you first learn how to drive, it's really difficult to learn to get the car going, right? Now I've been driving for many years, so I can just do it naturally. But the first time, the road was so small and the car was so big, and then if you go into a tunnel, it feels like the ceiling's too low. But you get used to driving, and the roads get bigger and the cars get smaller, so you can go to narrow roads.
그 운전하는 것하고
So driving
하는 것하고 배우면
and living by faith is when you learn it,
비교가 안 되고요. 운전을 해서 내가 2등
And the benefits that comes from learning to drive and the benefits that come from learning how to live by faith is uncomparable.
암약을 다 주고 갈 때. 이런 이야기 뭐 몇백 번 한 것 같아요.
I think I told you this story hundreds of times,
김성호
but
목사님 그때 전주에 있었는데 제가 전화를 했어요. 김성호 목사님 그
and I'd call Pastor Kim Sung-hoon.
이제 병원 한번 다녀오세요. 그때 다녀왔어요.
And hey, go to Brother Kim Sung-hwan's. He's in hospital. Hey,
이때도 못 갈 거라고 의사가.
Brother Kim Sung, this patient, the doctor said this patient cannot last a week, maybe 2 or 3 days.
제 아내하고 아들하고 셋이 광주를 갔어요.
So I had to go to Gwangju the next day. So I went with my wife and my son. I was going to Gwangju, and I told my wife, "Honey, let's leave an hour early. So let's depart early,
병원 한번 갑시다.
and let's go to visit Brother Kim Chung-han in the hospital."
병실에
So he was. I visited him in the hospital,
열었는데
and I opened the door.
실은 병실이죠.
It's the hospital, right?
이미 그 병실은 죽음의 분위기가 꽉 찼어요.
So in the hospital, the air of death was filled in the air. The brother was lying there, and it was as if it was already dead. The brother's wife was so sad. She was
그 사람에게 남편이 죽은 거예요.
to her husband was already dead.
어머니가 혼자 눈물만 쭉
In front of the bed, the brother's mother was crying.
제가 딱 병실에 들어서면서
So I stepped in, and what came to my mind was
열기 전까지 한 거는 문을 딱 여는 순간
when I opened the door, it was as if the air of death came because everyone in the room believed this brother was dead.
만일에 여기에 박옥수 목사가 안 들어오고
I was thinking if it was not Pastor Park and if Jesus that stepped into this room, what would he have done? He would have revived this brother. And then what's next?
예수님 계시는데
Oh, Jesus is with me and he dwells within me. So
어이 김현재
I yelled, "Hey, Brother Kim!
좀 떠봐.
Hey, open your eyes!" Oh, yes, Pastor.
이야기를 했어요.
So I told him,
의사들은
the doctors
하루 이틀 견디기 어렵다.
say you only have 1 or 2 days left.
근데 그건
However,
형편이고
that's the situation that you are in.
지금 여기 예수님이 계시는 이 예수님이
And if Jesus is here and
옛날
Jesus,
가지고 이것을 우리 눈에 보여 나타나면 자네 틀림없이 고치실 거야.
if Jesus was here, he would have recovered you.
내 중요한 것은
The important thing is
전기는 전선을 통해 흘러가.
the electricity flows through wires.
더러운 집이나 악한 집 다 전기가 들어.
No matter what the house is good or bad, clean or dirty, all electricity flows through the wires.
하나님은 전선을 통해 가시는 게 아니고
God does not flow through wire. It's not through pipelines. It's not through roads. God flows through heart to heart.
아니면 네 마음이
If your heart,
내 마음이
Brother Kim Chung-han,
하나님의
your
마음과
heart,
연결되면은
if your heart is connected with the heart of God,
하나가 돼.
you will be united with God. You will become one with God.
자네 몸 안에 그저암
Then the cancer in your body is dying.
자네 안에 그거 아무 문제가 안 돼.
But if Jesus is God is with you, that's not a problem at all.
그럼 내가 지금 하나님의 마음하고 자네 마음하고 하나로 연결하는 그 방법을
And I'll tell you, I'll explain to you how you can get connected with the heart of God.
김영재
So
내가
listen carefully.
성경을 읽어보니까
Hey, Brother Kim, when I read the Bible,
성경에서 예수님이 병자 고친 이야기가 많이 나오고
there are so many stories that Jesus healed the ill, the sick. In the book of Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Jesus revived the dead Lazarus,
나이든 가부 저 뭐야 아들도 살리고
and the son of the widow.
많은 사람을 살리시더라.
Jesus revived so many people in the Bible.
그럼 그 예수님이라면
If that Jesus,
병든 사람을 보고 못 본 채 하지 않고 지나가지
and
않으셨는데
Jesus did not ignore any of the sick,
그분이
that he passed and he
이 자리에
cured
오셨어요.
all of them. And if
자기
Jesus was with
죽어가는
us here,
걸 그냥 지나가.
he would not have ignored us and
중요한
he
자리 그렇게
would have
생각해.
cured you. Do you agree, brother? So, okay.
자, 예수님의 마음은 너를 고치고자 하는 마음이 있어.
The heart of Jesus wants to heal
어떻게
you.
하면 예수님 마음과 하나가 되지?
So how can you get connected with Jesus and become
네가
one?
어떻게 하면 예수님 마음과 하나가 돼?
How can you be united with the heart of Jesus?
예수님이 나를 고치시겠네.
And you just accept, oh, Jesus will
그
cure me.
마음을 갖는 거야.
You can just accept that heart.
그럼 예수님하고 너하고 한 마음이 돼.
Then you become one with the heart of Jesus.
같은 마음이 하나가 돼. 마음으로 마음이 흘러.
If the hearts are connected, the hearts flow.
제가 이야기를 해요.
And I told him,
한 번은 제가
one day,
김천에서 존 앤더슨 선교사에 왔어요.
I met with the missionary John Anderson in Kimcheon.
앤더슨 선교사에 따라갔어요. 부천역에 갔는데
So I went to
키가 크다는 아가씨가 마주
Bucheon,
둘이 이야기했어요.
and there was a lady there, and we talked,
안녕하십니까?
and we greeted each other, said hello, say hello, I'm Kim Myung-suk.
부천역에서 처음 만났어요.
So we met first in the Bucheon
그
station.
존 앤더슨 선교사에 소개했어요.
So missionary John Anderson introduced my wife to me,
카레 라이스를 해줬는데
and she went to her house. They served me a curry,
천이 가까워가지고
and because Bucheon is close to Incheon, right? It was so salty because the sea is near.
결혼을 했어요.
And my wife and I got married after that.
1971년도에 결혼했어요.
In 1971, we got married.
4월 24일.
April 24th. That's our anniversary.
세월이 흘렀어요.
And many years have passed.
저하고 이 지구에 제일 친한 사람이 아내가 됐어요.
And the closest person in this world is my wife now.
그러진 않지만
Now, we fight a lot.
내가 아내하고 결혼할 때
When I got married with my wife,
우리가 서로 사랑하는 마음이 일어났고
we had a loving heart,
들여서
and my wife accepted it, and we became one.
다른 마음 되면 절대 결혼 안 이루어지죠. 그죠?
If we had different hearts, then we could never have got married.
마음인 거예요.
So it's the same being united with Jesus.
그래서 김충환 형제 김충환이 예수
So I've
눈에
told
보이지 않지만
Pastor Kim Chung-han, hey brother, even though you cannot see Jesus,
마음이 그 예수님과 한 마음이 돼야 하는데
you have to be
어떻게 마음을
connected to the heart of Jesus.
성경에는 예수님께서
So if you look in the Bible,
시더라
we could see that Jesus cured the sick.
틀림없이
That Jesus
네가 그렇게 믿으면
will cure you without any doubt.
아무것도
If you believe that, the cancer is not a problem anymore.
곧 죽는다 그랬거든.
Doctors say you don't have
하기 어렵다 그랬어.
24 to 48
야,
hours.
충환아 빨리 일어나라 나간다 갔어요.
Hey brother Chung-han, get up. All right? So I
일주일
left.
뒤에 아침을 먹는데 전화가 왔어요.
A week later, I was having breakfast, and then
안녕하십니까?
a phone came.
그때 막 그랬는데 소리 힘이 있어요.
And it was Brother Kim Chung-han. Hey, Pastor, are you okay? I said, Hey, brother, hey, Pastor, I'm good.
그래 어째 전화해?
So why did you call?
퇴원합니다.
Pastor,
어제
I'm going back from hospital.
암세포 하나도 없다 그래.
So we ran all the tests, and then the cancer is gone from my body, Pastor.
자 지금 우리가
So let's look at this. God
제일 섭섭하게 생각하는 게 뭐냐면
God is not pleased
세상 사람들 하나가 믿는 그거야 뭐 할 말이 없는데
when the people in the world that don't know God doesn't believe God. It doesn't matter to God. However, those who believe in God, those who come to service and come to church, if those people do not believe in God, God will be so disappointed.
눈에 보이고 손에 만질 그건 잘 아는데
So if you can see with your eyes, if you can touch, it's so easy to understand. But God, you cannot touch or you cannot see. However, if your heart meets the heart of God, so today in the book of Esther, there is an amazing story here.
당시에 왕비 와스디가 있었어요.
There was the king and the queen Wasti.
잔치를 하는데 왕비 와스디가 너무 얼굴이 예뻐요.
And the queen was so beautiful.
우리 자매님보다 훨씬 더 예뻤던 거예요.
Maybe she was much more beautiful than the sister sitting here. And the king was having a feast.
그 왕비의 그 아름다움을 국민들에게 보이고 싶었어요.
And he wanted to introduce the beauty of the queen to the people here.
그때는 없으니까.
Well, there was no television at that time, so
신하들을 보내가지고 왕비로 하여금 왕비 옷을 입고 왕비 관을 써 그 아름다움을 백성들에게 보였어요.
so the king invited the queen to come
왕비가
to the feast.
안타깝게도 안 왔어요.
Well, the queen Vasti,
왕이 이
she didn't come.
시켜서 오라겠나 안 오니까 왕이 화가 난 거예요.
And the king was angry.
기다리도 안 오는 거예요.
He was waiting, and the queen did not come.
신하에게
He refused to come. So the king
네가 나의 부름에 안 왔는데
said to the wise men,
어떻게 하면 좋으냐? 그 신하 하나가 얘기를 해요.
"What shall we do unto the queen
왕비가
Vashti according to the law?"
왕비만 잘못 우리나라 전국에 잘못했습니다.
And the people said, Vashti, the queen had not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to the people. For this deed of the queen shall come abroad unto all women, they shall despise their husbands.
그 왕비를 폐하시고 다른 왕비를 세우소서. 왕이 그랬어요. 그 말 듣고 그러나 또 왕비의 끝이 났어요.
So Queen Vashti
다른 왕비의
was no more before the king Ahasuerus,
모르드게 그 사촌 오빠
and the new queen was appointed.
에스더가 왕비가 됐어요.
So the cousin of Mordecai, Queen Esther became the queen.
나라가 많이 어지럽고 그래서 하만이라는 사람을 제일 지위를 높여가지고
And the king
다음에 이제 그 나라의 제일 높은 지위를
appointed Haman to take care
하만이
of the issues. And Haman,
다 대걸면 다 엎드려 절하는데 모르드게만 절을 안 하는 거예요.
and he was all worshipped by all people. However, Mordecai did not worship him.
하나님께 절한다.
So Haman asked him, "Hey, why don't you worship me?" Mordecai said, "I'm a Jew and I don't worship people. I can only worship to God."
그래서 모르드게 하나 죽이는 건 안 되겠다.
So Haman was furious and said, "Let's kill off all the Jews."
왕 앞에 나가서 날짜를 잡아가지고
So Haman came in front of the king
10월 13일
on December 13th.
왕에게 허락을 받았어요.
He
그
received
공문이
permission to kill all the Jews from that day.
사람들이 막
And that decree
이제 12월 시간은 몇달
was
남긴
declared.
전부 기도하고 막 죄를
And the Jews were all mourning and they were all weeping in sackcloth and ashes.
못 들어오고 이제 죄 굵은 배를 입고 죄를 무릅쓰고 있는.
And Mordecai was also in sackcloth and ashes, and he was crying in front of the king's gate.
그래서 모르드게 보고
And Queen Esther found out about
벽을
that.
안에 들어오려고 하면은 배옷을 입으면 못 들어오는데 배옷을 벗기고
So you cannot come into the palace with sackcloth and ashes. So Queen Esther sent clothes.
왕이
And Queen Esther asked Mordecai what's going on.
전부 다 멸하기로 결정했다.
And Haman wants to kill off all the Jews.
그러면서 이제 모르드게 하는 말이
So what Mordecai says,
너는 가서 왕에게 가서
so go to the king
유대인을 위하여 간절히 부탁해 우리를 살려라.
and ask for his forgiveness to save the Jews.
기별에 왔느냐 하면은
And what Esther answered,
우리나라의 법이 어떻게 됐냐면
the law, there's one law.
그전에는 누구든지 들어가면
So whosoever, whether man or woman, if to enter the king's inner court without permission, will be killed, except such to whom the king shall hold out the golden scepter.
30일이 지났는데
And I have not been called to come unto the king for 30 days. So Queen Esther asked What should I do?
왕궁에
And
있으니까
Mordecai
네 혼자
answered,
살리라고 생각지 마라.
Think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in
그렇게
the king's
말하면서
house
뭐라고 하냐면
more than all the Jews.
이때 내가 만일 잠잠하면 유대인은
If thou holdest thy peace at this time,
멸망하리라.
then shall there enlargement and
네가
deliverance arise to the Jews
왕궁의
from another
위를
place.
얻은 것이
But
이때는
thou
아니라
and
아니라
thy
지금
father's
왕궁의
house shall be destroyed. Who knows whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
성경이 우리에게 얘기하는 아주 중요한 내용은
So the important thing that the Bible tells us,
유대인이 전부 다 죽는데 에스더
and
왕비
all the
때문에
king
방황에
is
나가
about to get
이야기하고
killed,
충분히 말이 통하고
because Esther is the
가능성이
queen,
있는데
she can come up in front of the
에스더의
king,
그러면 너무너무
and she can
좋은데
save her
문제는
life.
뭐냐면은
Well, the problem is,
왕 앞에는 아무나 부름을 받지 않으면 가면 안 되고
the problem is,
왕이 부르지 않았는데 들어가면
you
그냥
cannot
죽이고
go into the inner courts where the king is without permission.
두 가지가 이제 에스더.
And Esther was afraid that she might get
그냥
killed.
에스더 이야기만 아닙니다.
So this does not only apply to Esther.
하나님 축복도 주시고
So
믿음
God
하나님
blesses
좋은데
us and we preach the gospel.
항상 이 세계는
However, in this world, there is God
세계이기
and
때문에
Satan, and they fight with
하나님
each
앞에
other.
나가려고 할 때 사탄 안 된다고 계속 두려움을 주고
So if you want to
염려를
go in front of
주고
God,
안될것 같은
Satan
마음을
keeps
준다.
giving you
그걸
despair
이야기하는 거예요.
and doubts.
그때 이제
So you
모르게
cannot go in
말하는
front of God.
너는
And then Mordecai
왕이니까 네
says,
혼자 면하려고 생각지 마라. 만일 이때 네가 잠잠하면 유대인은 다른
Do
데로
not
구원을
think
드리와 너와
that you can escape
멸망한다.
in the king's house.
네가 왕의
If you,
위를 얻은 것이
if you
이때가
hold
아니면
peace at this
그건
time,
아니야.
you and your father's house shall be
우리가
destroyed.
에스더가 시작되면 제일 먼저 왕비가 바뀌는 이야기가 나오는데
In the beginning of the book of Esther, there was a story of how Vashti
벌써
was changed.
이해하십니까? 하나님은 벌써 뭘 알고 계시냐면
And God already knew
유대인은 멸할 결정할 그걸 아시고
that God knew that Haman was about to destroy the Jews. So in order to save the Jews, God prepared
정말 그 에스더를
Esther.
삼아놓은 거예요.
So God made
하나님이
Esther the
에스더
queen.
왕비를 다 준비해놨는데 그럼 에스더가
And God
하나님
prepared
믿는 마음으로 가지고 나가면 되는데 앞에
Esther.
왕이 부르지 않는데 들어가면 죽는다. 이런 문제가 있는 거예요.
He put Esther in that position, so all she has to do is go in front of the king.
너는 왕궁에서 네
And
혼자
Mordecai
살려고
said,
생각지 마라.
Do not think that you will only be saved, you'll be safe in the king's house. Who knows whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? If you hold peace at this time, there will be enlargement, deliverance to arise to the Jews from another place. So throughout her life, this is an opportunity for her to work and to participate in the work of God. And Satan gives you fear, gives you doubt. And God prepared this problem. And I became the queen to save the Jews. So if I don't go in front of the king, me and my father's house will be destroyed. So you need faith to go in front of the kings. And Esther was so afraid. The fear was holding back. And Mordecai said, do not think that you can escape in the king's house. If you hold peace at this time, there will be enlargement and deliverance to arise the Jews from another place. Thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. Oh, I became the queen. I just not became the queen for no reason. It was to save the Jews. God already knew that this will happen and made me the queen. And it is the wills of God to save the Jews, and God will secure my life too. So Esther tells Mordecai, go and gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast for me, and neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and I will go
죽으면 내가 죽겠어.
into the king.
믿음으로 마음이 결정된.
If I perish, I perish. So she made up her mind with faith and advanced. The Bible is so interesting.
에스더 5장 1절에 보면
Esther
3일 동안 금식했지요.
in chapter 5, verse 1, it came to pass on the third day that Esther put on her royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's house.
왕이 어제는 딱 앉아 있고 저 어제 문을 향해서 앉아.
So the king sat upon his royal throne, and he was sitting there facing the gate. And outside the gate, Esther was in her royal apparel, and she was about to open the door, and the door was getting
왕이 어제 문을 향해 보고 있으니까
opening. And the king was seeing that,
문이 열리는 거예요.
and the door was opening.
누구야?
Hey, who is that?
저 문 열고 돌면 죽는데.
If that person opens the door,
누가 저 문을 열지?
he or she will be killed. Who is opening that door?
문이 싹 열리더니
And the door was opened,
치맛자락이 보이기 시작했어요.
and you can see the skirt of Esther, the queen.
문을 조심스럽게 열고 들어오는 거예요.
And Esther opened the door slowly and came in.
왕이 깜짝
The
놀라.
king was so surprised.
왕비가
Oh, the queen.
죽는 걸 아는데.
She knows that if she comes without permission, she would get
바보가
killed.
아닌데
She is not stupid.
여기 왜 들어왔을까?
What made her
있으면
come
어려움이
here?
있을까?
Or she might have some problems, she might have some difficulty.
도는 이유가 뭘까?
Why would she come here risking her life?
궁금한 거예요.
That made the king so curious.
이래야 사니까.
So he held out the golden scepter. And the king held out to Esther the
왕이
golden
사냥
scepter.
갔으면 어쩔 뻔했어.
Well, imagine this: if the king was out in
만나서 이렇게
going
이야기하고
hunting,
방에서 그
or he
뭐
was having a meeting,
그거가 떼내죠.
if he didn't
왕이
know
저 뭐야,
that the queen entered the room,
저
then
식사 자리에 가서 말이야,
she would have been killed.
술을 마시고 있었으면 그냥
Maybe if the
죽는
king would
건데.
having a meal and a feast,
앉아서 보고 있으니까 머리 열리고 까매요.
and coincidentally the king was sitting at his throne and saw the door opening. So he held out the golden scepter, and she obtained favor.
내가 살았나 확인해 보고 싶은 거죠.
So Esther touched the top of the scepter. The king said,
왕비에서도요.
"What wilt thou, Queen
그
Esther?
이유가 무엇이냐?
And
왜
what
이리
is thy
들어왔느냐?
request?"
그걸 알고 싶은 거예요.
He wanted to
내
know,
소청이 뭐냐?
"What is thy
하나
request?
절반이라도 허락해 하겠노라.
It shall be even given thee to the half of the kingdom."
아주 조심스럽게 얘기합니다. 왕이 내가 왕께 은혜를 받고 왕이 저를 기뻐하시면 왕이 선하게 여기시면 내가
And
오늘
Esther said, "If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I prepared for him." So the king went,
왕은 오로지
and the king
무엇 때문에 왕비가 생명을 걸고
was so curious, wanted to find out why is the queen risking her life?
내가 없어서는 금방 죽임을 당했을 텐데
If I wasn't sitting here, she would have been killed.
다시 잔재 술을 마실 때 이야기합니다.
So is the banquet and the wine. What is thy
그의
petition?
요구가 무엇이냐? 그의 소청이 뭐냐?
What is thy petition? What is thy
하나
request?
절반이라 할지도
It shall be granted. Even to the half of the kingdom shall be performed. Answered Esther,
내일도 잔치를 베풀 테니
I will have another banquet tomorrow. Come, let the king and Haman come to the banquet. I shall prepare for them.
막쏙다
Tomorrow, I will tell you my request. If it was for me, I wouldn't have the patience. I can't stand it anymore. Just tell me what is your request. That is my orders. However, the king had patience,
밤에 잠이 안 와서
and the king
신변에 분명히 무슨 문제가 일어났는데
was
그게 무엇이
thinking all night long. What is the problem?
모르드게가 왕이 죽여 살려줬다 그 이야기가 나와요. 내가
And he commanded to bring the book of records to the chronicles, and found out that Mordecai saved the king's life.
모르드게를 죽이려고 15규빗 때는 50규빗 때는 장대를 다 달고 왕에게 모르드게 죽이기를 구하러 온 거예요.
And now Haman came to the court, to the king's house, to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai onto the gallows.
하마나
And the king asked Haman,
내가 존귀케 하기를 기뻐하는 사람
what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor?
왕이 존귀케 하면 나밖에 없을 거야.
Haman thought to his heart,
네가 나를 잔치에 청했고
there is no more than myself that the king wants to delight to honor.
뭘 하고 싶어 뭘 하자.
And Haman thought, hey, what should I ask?
하시면
For the man who the king
안 해본 게 왕관한
delighteth to honor,
제가 한번 써봤으면 좋겠다.
oh, I want to
왕복
wear the king's throne, I want to wear the royal's apparel, I want to ride the horse. For the man whom the king delight to honor, let the royal apparel be brought which the king used to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal thing is set upon his head. And the king was so surprised. Oh, he wants to my throne.
하만의 마음을 보는 거예요.
He can see through Haman's heart.
저분이 내 옷을 입길 왕복을 입길 원하는구나.
He wants my royal apparel.
저놈이 내 자리를 탐내네.
This man wants my throne.
너는 빨리 가서
Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse, and thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew. Haman was so shocked. Oh, I came in front of the king to ask to kill Mordecai. So these incidents, I have experienced many things as I live my spiritual life.
그때마다 내가 한마디
And
얘기하면
every time I can say,
하나님 내 편이었어.
God was on my side.
세상에 다 아니라도.
If the whole world turned their back to me,
하나님 나에게 가르쳐 주는 거예요.
God taught me, hey, Pastor Park,
에스더가 왕 앞에나
look at Esther.
일생에 다시 구원을 베푸는 일을 했다.
What Esther did was to save all the Jews.
왕이 부르면
However,
죽는다는
before Esther went in front of the king, she had fear. There was a big hurdle in front of her. If Esther had not gone in front of the in front of the king, because of her fear, then the Jews cannot be saved. And God told me and taught me how we can be blessed.
네가 하나님의 영광스러운 사람을 살면 우리가 복음을 전해 이웃 사람들이 구원을 받고
If we preach the gospel and our neighbors are saved and they receive salvation,
복음을 전하고
if we go to a foreign country and we preach the gospel, if we go to the town or the village of the Indians, if we go to Southeast Asia and South America,
그럴 때마다
every time we preach the gospel, God helps us and blesses us. And I was so grateful for that.
너무 감사.
I'm so thankful.
근데 이제 그때마다 막 위험이 닥칠 것 같아.
However, every time there were difficulties, we had doubts.
거기서 에스더가
However, from there, it was like Esther.
우리나라 왕이 가서 구해야 하는데
Oh, I have to ask in front of the king. However, if he have not called,
죽임을 당하는데
I will be killed.
내가 죽임을 당할 좀 기회를 받다가 다음에 하면 안 돼.
Maybe I should look for an opportunity. Maybe next time. There were so many thoughts going across Esther's mind. And Mordecai said, do not think that you can escape in the king's house. If you hold peace, the Jews will be saved from another place, and you and your father's house will be destroyed. Who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? So Mordecai is the cousin of Esther. It says, if you hold thy peace at this time, you and your father's house shall be destroyed. So not only in a life and death
유대인을
situation.
살리기 위해 왕 앞에 나가서 이야기하면 유대인 살릴 수 있는데
If the queen went in front of the king and asked, she can save the Jews.
주저하는 우리 모양을 성경은 자세히 그려서
So this story is about how we hesitate in front of the incidents. And the Bible tells us, go boldly and advance to meet your incidents, and God will bless you. That's what this story explains to us.
저는 제가 복음을 전하면서
So as I preach the gospel,
어려울 때가 많고 힘들 때가 많고
I've met many difficulties and hardships.
꼭 이래 해야 하나 싶을 때도 있었고
Do we have to do this?
하나님 믿는
Many
믿음이
times I thought that.
있으니까 꼭 죽을 것 같은 마음도 들고 그럴 때가 많았습니다.
Many times I felt as if I'm in a life and death situation.
하나님 그걸 외면하시지 않아요.
However, not once did God ignore those incidents and hardships. He kept me safe. He worked in my life.
그래서 이 성경을 읽으면 읽을수록 놀라운 거예요.
And the more and more I read the Bible,
우리가
what's amazing is
앞에 나가서 유대인 그 수많은 유대인 사는 너무 큰 일인데 비해서
it's a great incident to save the Jews, the people of the Jews. Think of how many people you can save.
있으니까 말이죠.
And if I can sacrifice my life to save that, how valuable would it be?
거기에 조그마한 장인 아이고 내 생명이 위험하면 어떡하지?
However, in front of all these valuable works,
유대인을 다 구원한 그 은혜의 복 안에 들어가지 못 그냥
there are people who worry about their little tiny
그러나 이 성경을 통해서 우리가 배울 수 있는
problems.
것은
Those people cannot join in the works of God.
저희 선교회가 처음에 시작할 때
So when our mission first started,
어떤 뭐 선교 규모를 갖추고 한 게 아닙니다.
we didn't have a big
그 나라
audience.
말도 모르고 아무것도 모르고 그냥 비행기 타고 보내버렸어요.
So we didn't know anyone in that country, and the first ever missionary to be dispatched to Brazil was the missionary Kim Bum-sub. We didn't know how to send missionaries. So what we said, there was a plane going to Seoul to Sao Paulo, and it was going from Los Angeles to Sao Paulo. I told the missionary Kim Bum-sub, hey, get on the plane. There may be a lot of Koreans, so it takes about 30 hours. So have fellowship with them, preach the gospel. And many people say, and many people ask the missionaries to say, hey, do you have a mission? And what kind of mission sends missionaries so unprepared? However, now we have so many people in our missionaries. And when we sent out our missionaries to Costa Rica, he couldn't speak Spanish. However, now statistically it is proven that those people that does not have language abilities of the country is better at doing mission work. So our missionary going to Costa Rica, they came to the airplane. Pastor Cho Seung-ju, he could not speak English, he could not speak Spanish, and he was held at the custom to ask, what is this? And the missionary was just smiling there, standing. And the custom people, the employees that are working at the custom, were so, didn't know what to do, and the missionary was just sitting there. So about 2.5 hours later, he came through. It was so dark at night. It was the first city he didn't know anyone in the city. So he stepped out. It was dark. And there was a Korean lady yelling, "Hey, are you Pastor Jo Seung-ju?"
그래
And then the pastor was so surprised. "Oh, yes, I'm Jo Seung-ju."
이 여자분이 코스타리카 사는
This
중국에
lady,
사는
she was living in Costa Rica.
한국에 전화가 왔어요.
And she received a call from Korea.
야, 내 친구 그 친구가 전화하는데 오늘
It was her friend. Hey,
생겼다.
hey, something really weird, strange happened. Hey, someone we know.
선교사 코스타리카로 가는데 말도 모르고 아는 사람 하나도 없대.
And there's someone that's going to Costa Rica, and he doesn't know how to speak English or Spanish.
혹시 좀 도와주어라.
Hey, I hope if you have time, you can help him out. So that's how the lady came to the airport. So that night, the pastor's family stayed at her house, and she helped pastor get a room. And pastor was learning how to speak Espanol.
복음을 전하고 싶어 미치겠는 거야.
And as he was learning the language, he wanted to preach the gospel. He wanted to preach the gospel, but he couldn't speak the language.
세 명을 앉아 복음을 전하는데
So one day he was preaching the gospel, and pastor,
잠깐 기다려놓고 이게 무슨 말이지?
and when they were saying was that Pastor Jo Seung-ju would say one sentence, and the three people gathered around thinking what this meant.
대도 않는 에스파뇰을 근데 그 세 사람이 구원을 받았어요.
And it was unbelievable. It was almost impossible. However, the three people received salvation.
장래가 잘된 것처럼 놓인 것처럼 보일 때도 있고 암담해 보이는지 몰라도
So there are many situations that the future seems bright or dark. So it's because you can't see it. However, in God, our future is not dark
믿음이 있어야 선교도 하고 하나님 위해서 일을
or vague.
있는 거예요.
You have to have
그렇기
faith
때문에
because God will help you.
에스더가 왕비가
So let's go back to Esther. And Esther was the queen.
될수 없는 거야. 왕비 진짜
It was impossible
아름다운 미모를
because in order to become the queen,
근데 와스디란 왕비가 있었는데
there was already a
왕이
queen,
한 5만
Vashti.
되는데 보기 싫어한 거예요.
And Vashti, for no reason, she didn't want to go to the king's feast.
왕비 지원했는데
So she was dethroned.
많은 여자 가운데 에스더를
And of all the applicants
이야기를 해보면
to become the queen,
근데
the
우리는
king
왜 그때
selected
전혀
Esther.
모르는데
No one knows why that happened.
하만이란 사람이
However, God knew that Haman will be trying to kill the Jews.
하는 걸 하나님 미리 아셨어요.
And Haman was all prepared to kill off all the Jews. And God knew that.
에스더가 왕에게 얘기해서 나와서 하만
He planned everything. Oh, what will we do? Oh, let's have Esther become the queen so she can go in front of the king to ask for the lives of the Jews. So it was the second day of the banquet, and the king,
에스더예요. 내가 왕 같으면 막 빨리 얘기해. 나 못 견뎌. 그러는데
the king and Haman came to the second day of the banquet,
채통이 있지.
and the king did not rush Esther.
두 번째
Esther
왕비 에스더요.
said again, the king said, "Why? What is thy petition, Queen Esther? What is thy request?"
절반이라도 내가 허락하겠노라. 왕비가 저희 왕 앞에 고개를
The queen said and answered, she had tears in her eyes.
왕이 나를 사랑하시고 내게 왕
O king, if it please the king,
내 생명을 내게 주시고
let my life be given
내
me at my
민족의
petition,
생명을
and my people at my request.
왕비가 눈물 섞인 소리가
And the queen was in tears.
노비로 팔렸으면 내가 잠잠하는데 어찌 내 동족이 멸망을 보고 내가 잠잠할 수가 있어 없겠습니까?
If we had been sold, then I would hold my tongue. Although the enemy
왕이 너무 화가 났어.
is about to destroy and slay us, and the king was furious.
우리 민족을 죽이려고 그 계획을 하면
So who is he, and where is he
이 악한 마음을
that durst presume in his heart to do so?
막 왕이 화가 났어. 에스더가
Esther said, King,
하만입니다.
the enemy is the wicked Haman.
왕이
The king was furious.
세상에
How could this happen?
하만을 믿었더니
I believed you, Haman.
왕비를 죽여 왕비의 종족을 죽이고
And now you want to kill off the queen and the people of the
내
queen.
생명을 건져준 모두를 죽이려고 계획했단
And you plan to kill Mordecai who saved my life.
말이에요. 집에서 떠났어요.
And the king was furious and he arose
하만이
in the banquet with wrath. So Haman was about to be killed.
그 무릎에 엎드려 가지고 생명을 살려달라고 막 애원하는
And Haman was asking for his life
하만이 왕비 에스더 무릎에 엎드려
and fallen on the lap of Esther.
내 앞에서 왕비를
Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house?
사람들은 하만의 머리에 보자기를 쌓아
So people came out and they covered Haman's face.
장대에 하만이 다는 이런 일이 일어나는 거예요.
And Haman was hanged
성경을 읽어보면 그냥
on the gallows.
평범한 이야기 같고 보통 생활 이야기 같이 보이는지 모르겠어요.
So this may seem like a normal story that would happen in the world.
에스더가 그 왕 앞에 나아가서
However,
유대인의 생명을 건지기 위해 나가는 그게
in order for Esther to come out to the king and ask for the lives of the Jews, as
길도 들고 어려움도 많고
as we send out missionaries,
있고 뭐 이런저런
we have many difficulties, financial difficulties, there are diseases, but we carry on the work, our mission work. What's amazing is,
난이 성경을 읽으면서
when I read the Bible,
왕이 어전에서 여기 어전 전문 저 앞에 문을 쳐다보고
the king was sitting on the throne and he was looking at the gate,
문 열리는 거예요.
and the gate was and the door was about to get opened. He was so surprised.
누구야? 왜 이 문을 여는 거야?
And who is that? Why is that person coming in?
누군가가 들어오는 거야? 왜 들어오는 거야?
Why?
누구야?
What's the reason? Who is it?
그래서 보니까 문이 조금씩 열리더니
And the door was open and Esther came in. And what? Queen Esther?
왕이 얼른 그 모를 내니까
The king held out the golden scepter. Esther came in. She touched the scepter
살았다는 확인하는 거죠.
and she wanted to make sure that she's saved.
왕이 말합니다.
So thankful. And the king
왕은
said,
그래요. 그대 요
Queen Esther, what is thy request?
그대 소청이 뭐 나라죠.
What is thy petition? It shall be performed even if it is the half of the
그에
kingdom.
대해서 모두 저 에스더 유대인이 다 사는 이야기.
So because of the Queen Esther,
오늘 그리스도의
the people of the
신분이
Jews
우리를
will be saved.
바라고 있는 것입니다.
Now Queen Esther is the
우리가
bride
왕
of
앞에
Jesus
나가
Christ,
나가 우리가 보험에
us,
나갈
the
때
brothers and sisters of the church.
우리가 상상할 수 없이 크고 많은 어려움과
There are
문제가 생깁니다.
difficulties and problems that we cannot imagine in our lives.
근데 하나님은
However, God,
이 세상에 하나님만 계신 것이 아니라 마귀의
there's not only God in this world, and also Satan works. the devil works in this world. So do preaching the gospel, doing God's work. Every time we go toward God, even though it's not a life and death situation, we face problems, difficulties, and even death threats. However, God protects us and keeps us safe. There was this brother, he went to preach the gospel in China, and he was kicked out. And he came to Korea, and he went into China again. So at this time, they will kick him out again if they found out he was a missionary. So the little kids, they were going to school. and
하느니라 가면 안
and
되고
told the children,
그
hey, if
회사원이라고 그래 알아서 회사원
if anyone asks what your father does, don't say hey, he's a pastor. Tell him he works in a company. He works at a computer company.
회사원이
So hey, and the kids went to school. And kids went to school and asked, "Where does your father? Or what does your father do?" Oh, he works at a company. What kind of company is it? It's a computer company. So there was this teacher at the school.
하나 둘 셋
So she came from North Korea. It says 1, 2, 3, 4,
하나 둘 서이 너희
and she had this. And then the teacher had this North Korean dialect.
셋 넷이에요. 선생님이 애들 너무 귀여운 거예요.
And the kids were so cute. So the teacher asked the kids, "Hey, where's your house? What does your father do?" "Oh, he works at a company." "So what company is it?" "It's a computer company."
직책이 뭐예요?
"So what's his position?"
직책 왜 회사는 사장님도
What's a position? "Oh, there's the manager, there's the CEO, the director." And the kids say, "Oh, he's a pastor."
그 아이들이 선생님 너 아버지 만나러 가자.
And the teacher said, "Hey, let's go meet your father."
얘네들이 막 큰일 난 거예요. 목사님 가지 말라 목사님 가지.
And the kids were so scared.
울고 막 그러는데
And they came home and the teacher said, "Hey, pastor, don't yell at the kids."
그 학교에 선생님들이
There are many teachers in the school.
진짜 이야기가 나왔냐면 일요일 우리가 성경을 공부하고 싶다는 마음이라 선생님.
The teachers wanted to study the Bible on Sundays.
그 일요일 날
So on Sundays,
학교에 모이는
they would gather up,
그 많은 선생님한테 찬송이나 성경 아는 한 사람도 없었어요.
and among all those people, there was not one person who knew about the Bible or the hymns. So for 2 hours, they just sat there and then they went back home.
반만 온 거예요.
And the second Sunday, only half of the teachers
이
came.
선생님이 기도할 줄 모르는데 우리에게 하나님
The teacher didn't know how to pray,
예수님을 가르칠
but the teacher asked,
목사님을 좀 보내주십시오. 이들이
"God,
기도를
please send us a pastor who can teach us about the Bible."
근데 아이가 만나 한국에서 아인 거예요.
And the teacher met children during class. And it was the children that came from Korea.
하나 둘 셋 넷이 애들 너무 귀여운 거예요.
And the children were so bright and they were so cute.
뭐 하시냐?
So the teacher asked, "What does your father do?" "Oh, he goes to a company. He works at a company."
컴퓨터 회사에
"What kind of company is it?" "It's a computer company." "So what's his position?"
뭐예요?
"Oh, what is a position?" "So there are managers, team leads, directors." "Oh, my father is a pastor."
목사님
The teacher said, "Hey, pastor, please teach the Bible for us."
마음이 막 너무 놀랐다 하더라.
And they were so
하나님이
surprised.
이렇게 길을 여시고
Oh, God opens up the
우리가
roads.
순결하면서
So as we carry on the mission work,
정말 우리가 어렵고 힘들고
there are so many difficulties and hardships.
항상 어려운 것 같지만
However, only seems hard.
하나님은 유대인을 다 멸망시키려는 하만의 그 계획을 알고 계시는데
But just as God already knew the plan of Haman's,
그래서 에스더를
and God prepared all the things,
왕배가 다 하기로
He
돼
made
있는데
Esther the queen.
에스더가
and
하나님을
prepared
안
everything.
믿고 자기가
But what
자기를
if Esther did
지키려면
not believe in
못
God,
나가겠죠, 그렇죠?
and if she wanted to protect herself and did not go in front of the king?
의미가 없는 거예요.
Then there is no reason for her to be the queen anymore.
여러분, 성경 뭐라 하시면 또
So what does the Bible says?
제4을 얻게 하는 회개가 예루살렘부터 모든 족속에 전파되어야 한다. 우리가 하나님 기뻐하는 이 귀한 뜻을 이루기 위하여 우리가 부름을 받았고
And we are
세움을
called.
입은 것입니다.
We were called to join in this work of God. Come in front of the king and ask.
왕에게 나아가서 구하라.
Come to the king and ask.
그 소리가 내 귀에 들리는 것 같아.
It's like this voice is
우리가
telling
복음을
me
전하면서
when I read
어려움을
this
많이
story.
방해도
As we
많고
preach the gospel, there are many hardships, there are many difficulties.
하나님은 우리 편이십니다.
However, God is on our
하나님 우리
side.
속에 일하고 계십니다.
God works with
자, 이제
us.
우리는 예수님의 피로 죄 사함을 받는
Now we have
이 놀라운 은혜를 하나님께로부터 입었습니다.
we have received the grace of Jesus' blood washing away our sin.
죽어가는 영혼을 살리기 위해서 왕에게 나아가라.
Now we have to go in front of the king to ask for the lives of the dying souls.
두렵기도 하지만
There are laws, there are
우리가
obstacles, there are
하나님을
fear.
믿는 믿음으로
However, with the faith of believing in God, and if we advance, God, you can find out God has already prepared all the things that we need. When I was in Kimcheon, God prepared us a home. When I was in Apgokdong, God prepared Sister Sonol-sun so she can join with the church. We can only see what's in front of our eyes. However, God sees what's in front of us 10 years, 15 years, 50 years later. So as we preach the gospel, no matter what problems or difficulties we face, with Jesus and with God, no matter what problem it is, we can overcome. We should advance. If there are burdens that are given by Satan, fear given by Satan, doubts, worries, if we are soaked and fall into that, then we'll be embarrassed in front of Jesus. Mordecai says,
네가 만일에 너는 왕궁에서 너 혼자 살이라고
do not think that thyself shall escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knows whether thou art come to the kingdom for such time as this?
예, 그렇습니다.
Yes, that's right.
하나님이 우리가 가 있는 학교에
And the schools we do,
원하게 우리를 그 학교로 보내셨고 직장에 그를 구해 우리를 직장에 보내셨고
God sent us to schools, God sent us to the companies that we work in, God sent us to the city that we lived in. Just like we go into the king and we ask for their lives, if we ask for the souls and the lives of the people around us, God will help us in all ways. And there will be strong, powerful works of God to save millions of lives of the Jews. And Haman will be hanged on the gallows that was supposed to be for Mordecai. Oh, there's a body hanging on the Haman's house. Hey, is that Mordecai? Oh no, Mordecai is not fat like that. Oh, it looks like it's Haman. Oh, it's Haman. Oh, it's Haman. People will be surprised. Tens of thousands of people, the lives of Jews. And there are two decrees. And the Jews, and the second decree said the Jews gather together and protect themselves. So because if it was permitted by the king's ring, then it cannot be canceled. So that's the reason there are two decrees. And you can see that the second decree is more powerful than the first one, right? And there are people on that day, people wanted to become the Jews.
똑같이 성경에 기록된 것처럼
Just like it's recorded in the scriptures, there are many incidents like this that happen in our lives.
방해도 있고
There are persecutions, there are fears, there are obstacles.
그러나 하나님이 우리를 만드시고
However, God created us
에스더가 유대인을 구원하기 위하여 세운 것.
and put us in the position just like Esther became the queen
전부를 구원하기 위하여.
in order to save the lives of the citizens of Seoul and to save the lives of the people in this world. If we hold peace at this time,
너네 아비.
the people will be saved from another place, but
그래서 우리는 이 복음을
you and your father's house will be destroyed. That is why we live for the gospel.
여학생
Just like the sister gave testimony,
정말
she was in her early 20s.
전하고 이런 얘기를 너무너무 아름다워.
And so beautiful how she preached the gospel and worked for the work of God. And more than 300 students, they spent almost a year.
다시 또 스리랑카 갈라 그러더라고요.
And the sister, she wants to come back to Sri Lanka one more time. She wants to go out to Laguna Score one more time.
한 평생 자기 자신 욕망을 위해
So
살고
many students, they have lived, they spent their lives working for the desires. And for the first time, they experienced the joy of giving to others. It was different from Korea.
음식도 나쁘고
So the sleeping quarters are not that comfortable, and the food is bad. However, it doesn't matter to them.
학생들이
There's so many people
3차 다시 해외 가서 일을 하고 있는.
that are working in the foreign
올해도
countries.
이제 새로 떠날 학생들이 지금 준비해 떠날
And also there are students who are getting prepared to be dispatched,
1년 동안 일해서
and they are so beautiful.
어떤 학생들은 막그저 뭡니까?
And there are some students,
독일을 공부하는 독일 갔다 오면 학교 교수보다 더 잘해요.
and there are students that go to even Germany and learn the language, and they're better than the professors now.
너무 잘 살다가 막 불평만 했는데 진짜 이렇게 어렵게 사는
And all they do was complain when they were in Korea, and then they once live in a poor country, and they realize how blessed their lives is, and their parents were surprised to see how their children were changed. So when we do these works, it's burdensome at first. However, God helps us. Let's become the Esthers of today. Let's go in front of the King and ask and preach the gospel to save the people around us. Let us pray.